Welcome to Sunday Morning Coffee with Caryn. Yeah, sorry, babe. Episode 52. 52. We are here live. We're going to be talking about Bliss. Mm-mm-mm-mm. One of my favorite. Oh my gosh, thanks, babe. My husband just handed me my giant cherry quartz. This is my new favorite thing in the world that I got. For all of my womb healing sessions and dragon sessions. This puppy's all charged up. So thanks, babe. That was cute. Felt like a little Vanna White right there. Little promo. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a beautiful Sunday wherever you are in the world. So we're going to be talking about bliss and pleasure. And I wanted to start. This all came because we were having a morning, Christina. We were having a conversation. My husband and I were having a conversation about just pleasure in general and how it's not something that um, Americans specifically, but really uh, any culture that has been predominantly like male dominated, I guess, um, they don't they all have the same common theme that like pleasure is bad, right? You're not supposed to, it's totally okay to be miserable and to be in like massive amounts of pain, and you're going to get attention from people, and you're going to get probably doted on and all these things if there's something wrong with you, if you feel bad, because that means that you're processing the sins and you're going to become a better person by going through all these trials and adversity. But if you feel good, then everyone's going to talk shit, right? Who's experienced this, right? You think that you're like all of your friends are with you, and then you go to a cocktail party and all of them are playing the game that I call whose life is worse. And you go in and try to say, "Oh, but my husband just got a raise," or "Oh, I just closed this really good deal," and everyone just gives you the stink eye. Like they all are like, "Well, it's great. Your life is so perfect." Meh, meh, meh. The rest of us have problems, blah, 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 blah. We all can't be as good as you. If you're still hanging out with those types of people, first of all, like, cut it out, right? Little Chandler Bing for y'all. Oh my God. It's going to be one of those days. My kids and my husband were all like up, kind of not feeling well last night with some stomach thing. So, yeah. Um, So I'm going to be specifically talking about America and the Puritanism, but that's why I like kind of precursed it. Pretty much everyone, unless you were raised in like really in-depth feminine tantric practices, have this sort of like baseline, and it's in your DNA. Okay, so when I talk to you guys about DNA and your non coding DNA versus your coding DNA, what I'm talking about is that we have 12 strands, like scientifically, they can see it in a fucking microscope, super microscope, 12 strands of DNA. And only two of them, which are the ones that everyone thinks about, the double helix, are actually coding DNA. Okay. So those are the ones that are really actually deciding if you've got brown hair, if you've got high cheekbones, if you've got a long neck, if you've got big boobies, if like whatever it is about your body and some of your personality traits as well are going to be in those coding DNAs. Hello, everyone. The rest of it, literally 144,000 other chromosomes, are non coding, or what they used to call junk DNA, meaning they didn't really know what the fuck the purposes of it was. And now we're realizing by channelings, the spiritual awakening, the grand ascension revolution that you guys hear me talking about all the time, is that we're remembering this knowledge. We're remembering what it was like in the time of Atlantis. Wow, my words. We're remembering being in other star systems, being other creatures, being more connected to magic, and we're recognizing and understanding that that junk DNA is really our human birthright to be connected with source, to be connected with God, with whoever you want to call it, the universe, the deities, whoever, however, you know that there's something bigger outside of you. You just know it. If you're here listening to me, you might not know what it is. You might have gone around most of your life telling people that you're an atheist or an agnostic, but there is something different, right? Like I know a lot of atheists that once they start talking about science and about like the Big Bang, I'm like, "Oh, okay, so the universe is you're something bigger than you. You still have something that's bigger than you." And that's actually like the sixth step for those of you who have been following me. I've been talking about, the 7 steps of becoming a super conscious leader and becoming fearlessly authentic in your everything and birthing your dragon. All of those are synonyms. You, you Step number 6 is realizing that all of the things that you've been through, all the dark nights of the soul, all of the breakdowns, all of the sitting in the goo, all of the losing of everything has actually got a purpose so much bigger than you. And once you tap into it, you never ever want to let it go. But the problem is that that thing makes you feel really, really, really good. Okay. It makes you feel real good. And that stops us. So, a little history lessons for y'all. America, again, I'm American. I am a however many generation American. Like, my 23andMe thing would probably come back. I haven't done it, but I live in Utah, so a lot of our we have access to this amazing library where a lot of really cool people have sat there for a lot of years and put together genealogy. We have literally, it's called the Genealogy Museum down in Salt Lake City. So I've seen a lot of my my history from both sides of my family pretty far back. And I am white, Western European, Western European, like all the way through. There's not really anything. I think I remember that one of like my great great grandmother was from a native tribe in Canada, so native Canadian, because my family came from France. Anyway, I digress. I'm white. And I'm American, and we've been here for a long time. So, those of you who know the story of the Mayflower, we're going to talk about it for just a second. The Mayflower was filled with Puritans. And if you don't know what a Puritan is, it's like the strictest of all strict Christian based religions. Okay, like they are okay, putting honey in their tea was considered a sin because it gave you sweetness and that made the tea taste better. And if it wasn't causing you discomfort, if you experienced any joy at all, you were sinning against God and you were going to burn in hell. That, like, I'm not fucking making this up. That is how intense Puritanism, being pure, you have to be totally pure, and anything joyful is a sin. Anything pleasurable to the body, because they loathed their bodies, right? They covered them. It's why you see the pilgrim women and they've got like their their bonnets and it's only covering like this much of their, like you can only see this much of their face and their whole neck is covered. And even in the summertime they were wearing like black dresses down to their wrists. So very, very much like we now think about Muslim cultures, their faces weren't covered, but it was literally like you couldn't see their hair. It was pretty much wearing a habit, right? A nun's habit, like, but that was your like daily wear because you had, yes, you were here on Earth, but as far as the Puritans were concerned, Earth was like a version of hell. You must have done something wrong to be sent here, and you were trying to prove to God every single day through your scripture studies, um, through the way that you acted, through the way that you served, that you were pure and therefore were allowed into heaven. Okay. So a lot of people don't know that that's what the pilgrims were. Like we just think about, and like don't even get me started on Thanksgiving. But they don't really understand that that's what the lineage for Americans is believing that there is something fundamentally flawed with feeling good. Like not only flawed, but like you are going to burn in hell. You are going to never see God. You are never going to experience heaven. You have to live the most bland, boring, struggling was considered, if you were struggling, that was actually a sign of like exaltation in the Puritan way. Not like, not financially struggling, but like if you were dying of some like horrible crippling disease, everyone prayed for you. And if you have everyone praying for you, that means that God's on your side and you're definitely going to get into heaven. Like, oh, she's definitely getting into heaven. Look at how horrific that childbirth was. She died giving birth to her child because they didn't have midwives. They locked women away and they're literally in like a hut to give birth. They believed in the curse of Eve. They believed that childbirth was supposed to be very painful, very excruciating. If you died during childbirth, that was just a part of it. Like, this is in your DNA, okay? I'm trying to really get you to understand epigenetics shows us that belief systems from our ancestors still moves forward, right? It's why you have so many people teaching you how to clear ancestral wounds, how to clear ancestral trauma. You could go back and like something that I teach a lot of my clients how to do is to go back in their lineage and find out what happened, because pretty much any of us who can trace our ancestry back to the 1600s here in America, we're going to have a mother figure somewhere that died in childbirth, like horrendously, laboriously, painfully alone while giving birth. That needs to be healed. That shit has to be healed. It's going to be in your womb. It's going to keep going. To really drive this home, the first graham cracker, not like the one that we have, like the guy that invented the graham cracker would seriously like just die on the spot if he saw what we now call a graham cracker. Because the guy who actually created the graham cracker, the thing was like this big and it was completely filled with all of the health. Like, you guys ever eat a super healthy, like a super healthy bar that's like all the fiber and all the whole grains and all the nuts and seeds, and you bite into it and it tastes like dirt and cardboard? Yeah, that's what the first graham cracker tasted like. So, because he was a Puritan preacher. His buddy Kellogg, same thing. Kellogg's cereal, they would die if they saw how much sugar we're putting on cornflakes. The cornflakes from before, they were literally just like dried up, mashed up pieces of essentially like matzah, not matzah. What is it that they make tamales out of? Anyway, just like ground up cornmeal that they then let dry and then break up, and then that's what they were eating. And they weren't even like, maybe they put a little bit of milk on it. They were both Puritans. Kellogg was the one who actually started pushing for mass circumcision for boys because he had a revelation from God that if we circumcised all the boys, which up until then was only a Jewish tradition, no other religions did it. It absolutely was not something that was normally done. He Kellogg went around with his buddy Graham and told everyone that we have to circumcise all the boys so that they'll stop masturbating, because masturbating was a sin. Of course, masturbating was a sin. Of course. And I'm pretty sure that they probably would have been for female mutilation as well. Like, no pleasure. Think about missionary position. It's called missionary position because it's the least pleasurable position. Yeah, right? Facepalm. It's the least pleasurable position. It gives enough pressure to the man so that he can get off as fast as possible. And we all know that if women had to get off to get pregnant, that we'd have a whole lot less people on this planet, right? Am I right, ladies? Am I right? We do not need to have an orgasm to get pregnant. Only the man does. So they would make it like you just laid there. You just took it. No pleasure, no moaning, nothing. You just, you laid there and you took it and you got pregnant and you were barefoot and you were pregnant and you were miserable and you were sitting in your bonnet drinking tea that made you want to gag. This is what is the baseline for American culture. The base, the beginning of America, white America. Sorry, y'all. I'm a privileged white woman. I'm not going to ever be anything but that. I love everybody that I come in contact with, but I can only speak from my own heritage. You're not going to ever hear me sitting here trying to explain to you what another culture experienced while they were in America. It's just not going to happen. Um, I might have some guests. That could be fun. That could be really fun. Um, anyway, so now that we understand why we are afraid of bliss, okay, so that's what it is, right? The title of this is why are we so afraid of pleasure? That's why. We're afraid of pleasure because we have been trained to believe that pleasure is bad and that we are going to burn in hell if we feel pleasure. It's just that's the base. So now fast forward, shift through to the roaring 20s, right? We all know the roaring 20s, the speakeasies, the flapper girls, the pretty dresses. We've got women have been fighting for 72 years to get their right to vote and all these things, finally getting their right to vote. Prohibition happening, the Great Depression happens right afterwards. But the roaring 20s, we think about a lot of pleasure, right? Jazz music, um, dancing, just like smiles on their faces. You don't ever see any like recordings from back then or pictures where people aren't just like got shit eating grins on their face, right? And then the Great Depression hits. So, what does that do to our brains and to our bodies? Holy shit, we're being punished. Our ancestors were right. Oh my God. We had all this pleasure and all this fun and all these things, and look at what happened. God is smiting us. This is, even if no one said that out loud, this is what our DNA was doing. This is what the other strands of our DNA were trying to figure out. Like, how is it that we had so much joy and pleasure and now we are so miserable? Oh, it must be that great 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 grandma, the Puritan, was right. Fuck. Time to go back down to, and then we all button back up again, right? All of the 1950s, moms are wearing their collared shirt. Anyone ever see Pleasantville, right? What happens when the mom masturbates in the tub in Pleasantville? Ah, she lights the fucking tree on fire, right? She wipes her makeup off, and like all these things are happening for her because she's experiencing joy, right? That movie in Pleasantville, they're black and white, and throughout the course of the movie, it shifts to Technicolor to show the bliss and the joy and the level of emotion, right? Sorry, I haven't seen Pleasantville for a long time. I'm literally like getting goosebumps right now thinking about that movie. I should go watch it again. So how can we what can we do about it? Okay. We understand it now, right? We understand this goes in cycles because 1950s, what did we get right afterwards? The 60s. And the 60s and 70s, then we have the 80s, we have more of the war on drugs. We have like right, for every time our society has a push up in pleasure, we immediately create a global push down that something out like dot-com bubble of the 1990s, you have the joy and the bliss of, oh my God, we Y2K didn't happen. Oh, sweet, we get a party. And then 2008 stock market crashes, housing market crashes. This is the Phoenix cycle of the planet. At least here, again, I'm speaking from American culture. And I think that a lot of you in other parts of the world, though, will be able to have some sort of, like, I know my ladies down in Australia, your civilization was not civilization. I don't even know how to phrase that right. But I know that Australia, at least what we're taught in America, please correct me if I'm wrong, Australia was originally like a colony to send prisoners to from England. Like obviously there were already Aboriginal people in Australia. Not that it was originally, but how did the British Empire reach Australia? How did the British Empire reach India? Even in India, they were teaching tantra, they were teaching all these things, and then the Brits came in and they were like, "Oh my God, you guys openly talk about sex? No, 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 no! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down!" Okay, so the British Empire fucked a lot of things over and had this Puritan Like even though the Puritans were even removed from, like, we went to America because the Church of England didn't agree with how strict they were, right? But it was still like, you ever been to England? Their food is fucking bland as shit. I'm sorry, guys. You have some amazing curry, but Yorkshire pudding doesn't taste like anything. So if we can't even eat food that tastes good, we definitely can't masturbate. We've created this internal dialogue within ourselves, that pleasure is bad, that we're going to get punished. And we create this in our own lives by what Gay Hendricks calls the upper limit problem. So if you've ever read The Big Leap, you hear him talk about the upper limit problem a lot. That's what the whole book is about. But the idea is that if you have a coffee cup, a water cup, well, this is a candle, but we probably get a water cup, and another cup. So let's say you've got 5 cups in front of you. The theory of the upper limit problem is that you will never be able to have all of the cups filled at the same time, because you're always like essentially pouring some of your bliss from other cups into another one. You're going to reach a point where instead of getting a bigger cup for the amount of joy that you have in your business, you're going to leave that the same, but then like pour some of it into the love cup, but then now you've got less money, right? You're never going to be able to expand everywhere. You're going to you're going to get a great big sale, and then you're going to fight with your husband. Or you're going to have amazing, amazing sex with your husband all month long and get no sales. You're going to have awesome connection with your kids, and they're finally like listening, and they're doing their schoolwork, and they're doing all this shit, and then your car is going to break down. The upper limit problem is actually a DNA problem too. Our mitochondria, which is passed down through the mother's line, the non coding DNA is passed down through the mother's line, is auto set to survival mode. So for the last 100 or so years, since like, and even less, like my grandfather was homeless during the Great Depression, so I had a lot of money issues to deal with. He wasn't only homeless, but he was homeless because his family wasn't Mormon and his dad couldn't get a job, and I live in Utah where all the Mormons are as a non-Mormon. Like there was a lot of shit to process in that. And so if we go back to the Great Depression, let's say it ends in 1940, because I don't know when it really actually ended, but I know that the 30s were like the fucked up years, and it's not a history class. Kind of is. So if you could go back to 1940, that means your grandparents most likely were already born. My grandpa was born in 1925. My mother was born in 1952. And then I was born in 1988. So that means I'm only 2 generations removed from the Great Depression, which was absolutely survival mode, right? Yeah, okay, there were some people that made it through the Great Depression just fine. I'm gonna guess you're not on the call right now. Maybe you are. Maybe you're from a family that lived through the Great Depression just fine, and there's a lot of guilt, right? I do have some clients that have like old money, and there is so much guilt over the way the family got that money and the amount of like repression and like just fucked up shit that had to happen for that money to be made, that has occurred, that we process through. I'm talking for those of us who are, we're the first probably generation that are reaching millionaire status, right? We're the first generation that's going out there and really making it as an entrepreneur in a really huge big way, if we look back to our parents or our grandparents. And that has to do a lot with the fact that we're now a global community, okay? We might not have yet reached the point where we no longer have these silly things called separate countries, and that we end up just having like a world, like a UN that actually has some sort of fucking power, unlike the current UN. But when you go up to space, and you look down, you can't see the borders. You don't see where does one country start and where does one country begin. We're just one giant community. I've worked with people who live in villages in Nigeria, and like they have their cell phones. Like that shit is, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm reaching people that live in Africa on their cell phones, then we are a full world. Um, and of course, we still have more that we can do. But we're now in a thriving mode. Okay, that's part of what the ascension really is shifting from survival to thriving. And then we have this stopgap. So you guys have heard me talk about the governor in our DNA that stops us from being magical. The governor being like in a car, you start driving and there's a certain point where like no matter how hard you try, your car like stops you from going over 118 miles an hour at like or whatever it is. In most cars it's like around 118. That's like an actual thing in the engine that they've put in to keep you safe that stops you from going a certain speed. So we have several of those in our DNA. One of them is the one that I've talked about before when it comes to magic and opening your psychic gifts and opening, it's all the stuff that happened in Atlantis. The other one that really comes out is this thriving. We don't know how to thrive. Like our body literally is like, oh shit, we feel too good. Something bad's gonna happen. Error, error. Gotta create a problem. Gotta create a problem. How do I get back to feeling like shit? What do I need to do? How do I start having a panic attack? How do I feel depressed? What do I need to do to not have any libido? One of my things that I do to self sabotage is that I will overeat. That is one thing that I have noticed. I will either overeat or I will eat something that I know will not make me feel very good. And it usually is after, like, it's, oh, let's celebrate. We're going to have a celebration dinner. And then I order way too much food, eat way too much food, and then I feel like crap. And I don't want to have sex, which is weird because I always want to have sex. Always. All the time. But that's something that you notice. So I said that I was going to give you 3 ways to increase your bliss. The first thing, honestly, is just knowing this. Just knowing that your body is programmed to not accept levels of bliss because our whole humanity hasn't lived in a state of bliss in over 10,000 years. And even then, it was like pockets of it, right? Like in Atlantis, they had bliss. In Egypt, they had bliss. In Tibet during Shambhala, like when Green Tara came down and was teaching the monks, they had bliss. In India, when we were, when all these gods and goddesses were roaming the earth on a regular basis and teaching Tantra, we had bliss. But it's never been a global thing. So we create this space just knowing and understanding, okay, I have 2 strands of DNA, which are the ones that they always taught me about in school, that are the AGCT alternating strands that are my actual coding DNA. I get 1 pair from my mommy and I get 1 pair from my daddy, and they intermingle, and that is my coding DNA. You have 10 more strands, 144,000 other chromosomes that only come through your mother's line, okay? So all of you guys sitting there working on your father wound, you are working on the wrong shit. Daddy issues are like this fucking easy to process. Mother wounds, childbirth wounds, all of those other things. So like if it's your mother's womb, then yeah, you have to deal with your mom's dad, right? I'm just talking about so many people come to me and they've got daddy issues, and I'm like, oh honey, this will take like 1 or 2 sessions to get over. What we really need to be looking at is, holy shit, your mom's line is fucked. Everyone's mom's line is fucked. Just so you know. Because this is our work. This is the work we came to do. We came to do this healing now for us, because when we do it, we're actually healing our kids. And like my daughter will never have to do an ancestral lineage cleanse shit. Never. Like I am doing all of that for her. My boys are never going to have to deal with fucking money issue bullshit through their grandfather's story, because I dealt with it. And he was also my dad's dad. So like that was its own thing. But so the first thing is just knowing. understanding, like, if you can really get and know and understand this DNA thing, you are going to be in the top 1% of those in the spiritual community, because so many of them do not have tangible, physical, materialistic, science-based evidence. A lot of the time because they're like anti-science, but I love science. I'm a fan. I'm an anatomist. I went into cadaver labs to learn massage therapy. I think that the human body is completely fascinating, and I'm always trying to figure out how all of this esoteric shit out here affects me in my physical human form. Okay. I used to be extremely, extremely depressed. You guys know this. I talk about it all the time. So, the second thing, how much can you increase when increasing your bliss? Think about how sad you can get. Think about how pissed off you can get. Think about how just low, okay? Like, think about rock bottom. You got it? Everyone got rock bottom? And now go lower, because we all been there, right? We all hit our rock bottom and then we went lower, and that's what started raising us back up. Lucky for you, we live in the world where there's duality. So for as low as you have gotten, you are capable of going just as high. I like am out of the frame. I get for being so tall, right? So in the Kabbalion, we talk about in the Kabbalion, which is a spiritual text written by the three initiates of Hermes Trismegistus. It's a companion guide to the Emerald Tablet, the Thoth Emerald Tablet, which is just like a big, it's fucking huge as shit. So if you want like a shorter version, Kabbalion's a really good one. So they talk about polarity is really like, polarity is just different, varying degrees of the same thing. So there's dull and then there's sharp. But what dull, but that's subjective, right? What I consider sharp, you might not consider sharp. Now we can all agree that if it cuts your finger, it's probably sharp, but I've sat there sharpening a pencil for my kid and he's all like, that's not sharp enough. It's not sharp enough. It's not sharp. It's not until it's got like a totally razor point on it. Versus I sharpen my pencil, and as long as it looks like there's a good amount of lead, I'm good to go. Okay. Same thing with spicy and not spicy, right? That's a really easy one, like our taste buds. Oh my God, that's so spicy. And your husband's over there like, oh, really? I don't think they're spicy at all. You're going to eat that. If it's too spicy for you, I'll eat it. And you're like, give me up, right? Varying degrees of the same thing. So you have to take that with your pain and your pleasure. And I want you to put them on the same spectrum. And it's the spectrum of sensation. Okay? Got it? Good. Okay. So the first thing, understand that you're like fighting every single thing inside of your body and inside of your like ancestral lineage when you're choosing bliss and pleasure and joy over pain and suffering and lack. When you choose blissful prosperity, everything in your body is going to be like, stop, hold on, not safe, error, 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 woo, 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 woo. Everything. And it's going to be your job to have, which is the third thing, well, really the second thing, to have the awareness, hold on, I'm experiencing a sensation and I'm choosing to feel this sensation as pleasure. So I can, like, this is why BDSM is the best place to like compare this to. I would never be okay with my husband coming up to me right now and slapping me across the face. That would not be cool. It would hurt. I wouldn't be prepared for it. I wouldn't know what the fuck I did wrong, and I would probably go down. But in the bedroom, oh hell yeah. Absolutely. We got safe words, we got all the things. He can slap me this way, that way, all the ways. Because we put it in a container in which I know the sensation of getting slapped is actually something that I want. Right? So can you allow life to be like a giant BDSM game? I actually probably could handle him slapping me without it hurting as much. I would still be pissed if he just like walked in here and slapped me for no reason. But the physical sensation of pain probably wouldn't be there. It'd probably be very neutral. Like I would be more angry than anything. And this is coming from someone who had fibromyalgia. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia when I was 20 years old and fucking suffered through that shit for like 7 years until I finally decided no more. I'm done with it. I don't have fibromyalgia any longer, and we don't anymore. My doctor can't do, like, I don't pass, I fail all the tests that would prove that I have it. It's as if I never had it. Fibromyalgia is a physical representation of PTSD. Your emotional and mental states are so overwhelmed and so heavy that your physical body starts to feel the effects of it and starts to just like everything, like this, just like touching me like this, would send shooting pains up my arm. Slaps, like I would probably get a physical bruise. I never would have been able, like, our sex life was like nothing. He got laid a couple of times a year. It was not what it is now. It was not. And that's why I love telling you guys these stories because I've lived it. I have lived literally in the worst pain imaginable, sitting there bawling because my pharmaceutical drugs made me crazy, made me angry, made me so much worse that I refused to take them. And I told my doctor I would rather die on my couch writhing in pain than take the pharmaceutical drugs because I didn't feel like myself. I was totally fucking psycho. I was driving on them without realizing it. It was fucking bad. So I then spent the next 4 years in a stoned stupor constantly. Like I was still on the couch, might not have been in pain, but I couldn't move. If I tried to go on a hike, I paid for it for like a week. And this wasn't even like a hike like I do every morning now. This is like walking around this little boardwalk that's a mile around. I couldn't even walk for a mile without the next day my knees, my ankles, my feet just totally being fucked. But I have that at this end of my spectrum. So that means that I have this on this end of my spectrum, right? I'm like, I've got Instagram right here, so its frame is like this big. But then I got Facebook over here and its frame's like this big. So is that landing for you guys? Like you are deciding how you're experiencing the sensation of life. I decided that I wasn't going to experience fibromyalgia anymore. I was fucking done. Like, nope, that's not a thing for me. And I went through therapy. I was going through therapy, like actual like psychiatric therapy. I started using essential oils. I started getting body work done all the time. I started using other plant medicines other than cannabis. And then I started working on all of my, yes, life as a medium. Yes. Christina, you need to read Existential Kink, girl. Like, get your hubby to read that book. My husband fucking loves it. He'll yell at me. I'll get frustrated. And he's like, having is evidence of wanting. I just flip him the bird and realize that he's totally fucking right, and I process it, right? That's for a whole different thing. If you've never read Carolyn Elliott's book, Existential Kink, go buy it. I will make a whole lot more sense. And she's fucking phenomenal. Um, so first thing, understand the DNA stuff and the mother wound. Second thing, understand the spectrum, the sensation, pain, and bliss. And the third thing, allow it. Allow yourself to feel that good. Allow yourself to expand the feeling. Feel in your body. This is the cutest thing. Hi, honey. I have a little kitty cat coming to visit me. Do you want to come say hi to all the people? Come here, kitty. Come say hi. Come here. Yeah, we'll wrap you up. Come here. Come here. Ready? Set. Jump. Oh, yeah. Oh, say hi. Can you say hi? Oh, yeah, sweet baby. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You just got out of the bath. Can I give you to daddy to give you clothes? If you give me a master sword. He's got the master sword, and when I'm done, we're gonna make banana pancakes. Do you want to help me make banana pancakes? Okay, well, you're gonna have to be in day clothes first. Can kitty cat get into day clothes for me? Yeah? Can you go find me a pretty dress to wear?
I'm sure we can find one together, hon.
Yeah?
Can I have
Maybe
the
your
kitty?
pink one? Yeah, thanks, Daddy.
I love kitty kitties.
Oh, so pretty. Um, okay, sorry, my sweet girl just totally distracted the fuck out of me. She's the reason, guys, why I am the way I am. I could not be who I used to be as soon as I had my daughter. So I know that I got a lot of friends on here that have boy moms, that are boy moms. I was a boy mom with only for a long time. Something inside of me snapped. She was born unassisted at home. My midwife got there 15 minutes later, and I couldn't be angry anymore. I couldn't keep living within the patriarchy, and I started cutting cords. I started cutting all of the cords to the bullshit. So I'm going to show you my other new little toy since I showed you the other one at the beginning. This is my new selenite sword that I'm using for cord cuttings for my clients right now. Um, Selenite is really like it doesn't hold any of the vibration, so it's pure. Like you want to talk Puritan knife, this would be the thing. Um, Cord cutting, that's an allowance thing, right? You have to allow yourself. Sorry, I'm just gonna. You have to allow yourself to be okay with being that person that other people don't like because you're so fucking happy all the time. You have to allow yourself to be that weirdo that shows up waving selenite wands and talking about DNA and mother wounds and dragons and all of the different crazy things that I talk to you guys about all the time, right? You have to allow yourself to not be who you are right now. Because who you are right now is someone who doesn't constantly experience bliss and pleasure. And who you want to be is someone who does, who lives on the edge of an orgasm. Like, I think that's my favorite thing. When I have my clients, like, they all reach a certain point where they Voxer me and they're like, I think that I ate a sandwich and had an orgasm because of it. And I'm like, yes, that's that's how good life is. That you're always on the edge of an orgasm. That you eat a sandwich that is just so fucking good that you're like, oh my god, I think it just came a little bit. Oh, like foodgasm, but like a legitimate one, one that actually happens. um, just being able to get off on every stroke, right? Like just being able to laugh when a surprise bill comes in instead of cry. That is choosing bliss over pain. Okay? Allowing yourself to be okay with your dog doing whatever it is that you didn't want him to do and just, laughing about it or dancing it off, finding a way to move through it, to release the emotion. I've had moments where I've been sobbing, like just so upset and so sad. I got into like a really big fight with my dad actually on Father's Day, and I was so mad and I was crying so hard. And then after I allowed it to happen, we're kind of simultaneously, I had this feeling of like, but how awesome. How awesome that I'm processing this, that I'm crying, that I can feel this like hot, wet tears on my face. And I started really dissecting the feeling of crying and the feeling in my chest and having this moment of just pure gratitude that I was able to allow my emotions to flow when I know that my dad doesn't do that. He doesn't. He's not. He's a self proclaimed Vulcan. Like, he, that's a thing. Like, even in his dad and his dad and his dad, having the ability to allow the emotions to move through me is a huge part of the reason why I don't have fibromyalgia anymore. Because again, fibromyalgia is physicalized PTSD. That means that I need to stop holding trauma in my body and just let it move, right? I need to allow myself to sob and dance and do all the things and then have gratitude that I'm capable of using those tools and then go teach my kid so that when he starts to bottle up, because that's going to be just in his coding, right? It's just going to be his natural response. He had his grandparents around, my oldest, his grandparents around for a long time. He does that. He starts bottling up. He's very much like my dad, like that, and like my husband. All of them do that. So it's my job to have all these tools to allow for the space for my family members to have their feelings, right? I'm not the only one that's allowed to have feelings, right? How many people are like, "Oh yeah, sure, you get to be PMSy all the time, but if any of us ever have feelings, then you're a total bitch." Like I have a lot of those clients, like I have clients that come to me for that exact reason. Like I'm totally good with my emotions, but other people's emotions, no, 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 no. So there's a reason why I work with a lot of people on a lot of different spectrums, all around this idea of being blissfully prosperous, this idea of being able to rule your empire. An empire, an expansion, right? Not a kingdom is what you have right now is a kingdom. You are the queen, you are the king. We are creating an empire. We are spreading the love, we are spreading the bliss, we are spreading the prosperity so that we can encompass the entire world in this higher vibration. We can cut all of the cords, we can do all of the healing and activate all 12 strands of our DNA so that we can do things like go bilocate. We can have telepathic conversations across the planet. We can be in conversation with the Pleiadians or the Octurians or the Syrian Star Nation, whoever you relate to. You can, go down to inner earth and like spend the day with Gaia. Like all of those things are things that used to happen in ancient Egypt that haven't happened on this planet in tens of thousands of years. And that's the Ascension Revolution. That's what birthing your dragon is. You want to know what a full grown dragon looks like? Hi, I'm Caryn Terrace. I'm the Dragon Doula. I live in constant bliss. Even when I'm having a bad day, it's like 24 hours of the day, 20 minutes of it is bad. And even then, I don't classify my life in morality. I don't. My life is not a question of morality, it's a question of integrity. Am I in integrity with my standards? Am I in integrity with the word that I have made for myself? Am I staying in commitment to what it is that I want to create? And what I want to create is blissful prosperity. So if I'm always in alignment with the feeling of, okay, how do I feel right now? Do I feel turned on? Do I feel like my pussy is wet? Do I feel like my heart is pounding, but like in that excited way? Yeah. Do I feel like I have the entire world behind me just supporting me in all the ways? Do I feel completely blissful and completely prosperous? I do. Sweet. Let's move forward. And if there is a no anywhere in my body, then I stop and I reset. And I reset in the way that I teach you before every invocation that I've ever done. We connect all the way down to the heart of the planet, and we connect all the way up to the heart of our higher self, and we crisscross those energy through our own higher heart, recognizing that we are all of those things. We are Gaia, we are Source, we are the earth, we are the stars. Our birthright is bliss. That's what our actual birthright is to experience this planet and to choose bliss over pain. But really, I'm going to take that back. Our birthright is choice. It's really choice. You get to choose pain or pleasure. You get to choose spicy or not spicy. You get to choose blissful prosperity or sorrowed lack, suffering. So what you're going to choose? Are you going to continue the same epigenetic family line that has been going on for hundreds, if not thousands of generations? Or are you going to stop? Are you going to say, no, this shit ends with me. I'm done. No one in my family is going to experience this anymore. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to do the healings. I'm going to do the activations. I'm going to do everything in my power so that my kids don't have to do this shit. Because I know that the power of my healing is going to move through the generations. If you change the way you parent, you're not only changing the lives of your kids, but you're changing the lives of your grandchildren and your great grandchildren and your great 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 grandchildren. It's the same thing when you finally decide that you're going to commit 100% to your own ascension revolution, to your own ascension process, your own spiritual activation in connecting more and more to that thing that's so much bigger than you and disconnecting from the old ways, the ways of the past, the ways that kept us heavy. And of course, I have a lot of ways to help you with that. There is the bespoke dragon invocation, which is Amazing. It's an hour-long session. You get a 3 oracle card reading. You get a bespoke vocal activation, a protocol of how many times you're supposed to listen to it, and 2 follow-up calls as well. It is amazing. It is phenomenal. I will leave the link here. Um, Instagram, the link is in my bio. So that is one way. The other way that's really exciting is that we do have the Dragons Retreat Gateway to Bliss coming. It's going to be over the week of November 11th. We're still getting everything together. We officially launched that on the 1st of September, but I promise you, we already have spaces that are filling. So if you're interested in going to a high-end luxury amazing retreat down in Sedona, Arizona, where we are going to be focusing on what the fuck would Aphrodite do if she had 5 days here on earth, let me know. So I love you. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a beautiful day. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, as always, feel free to reach out. Feel free to let me know. My DM is always open. Always open. I love you. Mwah. Have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Sunday.